Yo, dude. How you doing?
Not bad, dude. Not bad. I just got my marijuana delivery, so
Oh shit.
we're pretty good today.
Okay. Are you did it like just arrive or are you already cranking down on
Oh,
that stuff?
no, it just arrived like
Okay.
10 minutes ago. I haven't sparked
You're
anything
like,
up yet.
bro, this is gonna be a hilarious lesson.
Yeah, and I made sure to get the example games. I played for you, but like not baked because
Sure. No, it's all good.
you might think I was baked because I had like 2 minutes of supply block in this particular replay, but
Oh no, no worries.
you know,
It happens to the best of us. It's all good. Uh,
cool.
so we talked last time, and refresh my memory on the like where we left off, just so I'm not gonna mislead it here.
Like like my league and stuff, or like what?
Yeah, like, cause we coached before, right? Like maybe like 2 months ago or
Y-
something.
y- a little bit longer ago than that,
Okay.
but yeah, we've done PvT coaching and PvC coaching.
Okay. So what are you thinking about doing today?
PvP,
Okay. And
PvP.
you're in Diamond League, correct?
Yeah, I'm in Diamond One. I'm in like right at the cusp of 4,000 MMR right now.
Nice. Is
Um,
and then you have a replay. You were talking about a replay. You wanted to look over
I,
and see what's going on.
I do, I do. So here's the story with me with PvP, real
Okay.
quick. It actually is historically my best matchup in StarCraft. In terms of win rate and stuff. But I don't like my PvP style too much. I don't think it really scales or it's very flexible, and it's kind of all-in-ish. And so I've been trying to like get a feel for how I want to play in the current PvP meta. Um, what I usually do with PvP prior to this, I would typically play one of two ways. I would do the 3-gate 8 stalker pressure opening while I have a nexus behind it, and I try to kill the opponent. And if I win, outright with the 8 stalkers, great. Move on. And if not, I get a couple sentries in a robo, and I start trying to macro up on two bases. And then I still ultimately do another all in off of 2 bases with like 8 gates and like an upgrade, and try to just walk over and kill them before they're ready to deal with that.
Yeah.
And then the other way that I would play is I was doing the stats 3 sentry opener for a while. That was being discussed like a year or so ago, or a year and a half ago, where I would open up with like 3 stalkers and 3 sentries, get a super fast forge if my opponent expanded, and try to hit with like the earliest possible +2 timing, once again off of two bases and like 8 gates. I'd like try to like show up at 7:30 with +2 with like charge lot Archon and Modal. I had like 3 Archons and a bunch of charge lots and a couple of Immortals and a War Prism.
Sure.
I try to kill the opponent that way as well. And so I kind of got stuck in this rut where like I never ever took third base. I was scared to take a third base because I was afraid that my opponent would do the same thing that I would do to them,
Yeah.
with like the 2 base timings.
Mhm.
And I just really kind of just didn't have a good footing for how to play that way, how to play like proper macro
Yeah. Yeah.
in the matchup. So I just kind of didn't do it. And lately I've been kind of trying to change that and follow the blink opening style, where you get like a couple stalkers and a couple sentries go into blink, and then get like a fast third and try to be active. You'll see that I'm not as active as I probably should be in the replay. And what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to kind of basically play the same way, but just have an overwhelming amount of like charge lot and stalkers and maybe some archons. I don't play with disruptors because I suck really bad with disruptors. Like I just whiff my shots all the time and hit my own army, and I just never like I'm sure if I spent like a month just forcing myself to learn and get better with disruptors, I would.
Yeah.
But it always ends up being like a detriment for me when I try to like go into disruptor. Like I kind of like find myself confused on when to be aggressive, how to play with them. I don't hit, like I just said, I don't hit my disruptor shots at all anyway a lot of the time.
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
So I really kind of just want to play that like mass like gateway army like blood type of thing.
Yeah. No, I
Ideally.
can already think of a build that would be good for you, honestly. And one of the best ways I think you can open would be something along the lines of like, you could still do Blink Stalker openers.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. And then what can be behind that is you can go into or like the way it opens, it could be like a double gate opener into an expansion where you go Stalker with like a sentry, and you could scout your opponent's base consistently with a hallucination, and that's going to give you the ability to know if it's safe or not to take a third base. And you know, if you do take a third base and you scout your opponent has like 5 more building gateways in his base, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, we're about to get all in right now. Definitely start making some more units yourself, kind of a thing. But if you play a style that, if you want to play a super hyper aggro style, a style that would be amazing for you, I feel like, would be a style where you can almost always get away with an expansion to your third faster because you don't actually take your gas at your natural. Like you just you take your gas in your main and you make stalkers and your tech off of the gas in your main. You also get a forage for like single weapon upgrades, and then you make like an initial 10 stalkers or so, like roughly with the initial sentry, and then you make an observer with it too, so you're not gonna die to like DTs or some shit. But then it just literally just turns into like mostly charge lots. It becomes like crazy fucking charge lots, and you can still have, you always have your stalkers behind your charge lots. Then you can still increase the stalker count as well, if you know, your gas starts piling up a bit. Because again, if you're not losing stalkers, you're not having to replace stalkers, so you can just kind of add more onto it. So your stalker count can grow from like 10 to 20 eventually, and then from 20 to like 26 or 30 or whatever. But it's still just mostly zealots, the majority of the game. And it actually can defend and overwhelm styles where people do 2-base all-ins to you. Like quite consistently. I think it's actually one of the scariest ways to play PvP. Because it's really hard to die early if you have Stalker Opener. And then behind that, when you get to the phase where you have like fucking like 16 gateways of charge lots, like you just literally overwhelm your opponent. Like they're just like, oh, okay, he just grew his supply by like 70 in fucking like 40 seconds. Like it gets ridiculous.
Cool. All
right. But yeah, I mean, we can look at your replay and check out what's going on. But I think honestly, what you're looking for, this is my honest opinion. If you are gonna go for 2-base, and that's it, and you're gonna go heavy gas, it puts way more emphasis on your robo. Like you need to really use your robo well. You can't. It's not a gateway build anymore. It's a robo build. Like the gateway supports the robo, but if you go 3-base or more, that's a gateway build where it's not prioritizing the robo because you're not taking a minimalistic economy with minimalistic production. Because even though 8 gates is like pretty fucking invested, at the same time, if you have 8 gates in a robo, and let's say all you do with that robo is make a warp prism, that build is a build that you better have like pristine micro with, because the only way you're going to win that game is if you win with your first push.
Yeah, right.
All right, so I would say just to make it easier for you, just go ahead and drop the replay in the Discord chat between the two of us. That way you can see my perspective when I look at the replay for you. So you can actually see what I'm actually like mousing over and stuff.
Got it.
And then yeah, I guess while I break it down, as always, I know you know this, but I'll just say it again just to make sure you're comfortable. Feel free to interrupt the shit out of me as much as you want and like ask me questions.
Sure. Yeah. I actually wrote down some questions in Notepad.
Awesome.
So I don't forget to ask them.
That's good. And then yeah, I guess after we go through the replay, I can give you some ideas on what's going on for you, like what should be happening and what like your focus should be and stuff like that. And then if you want, I could give you an example build of kind of what I think your flavor of style, what you're looking for would be.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think that I'm going to be very good at the very technical builds. I really just kind of want something that like
just puts me the kitchen sink
in an puts me in a good economic position. I love the thought of having like a bazillion gateways and just aping them basically.
I can already say what your style is like. A guy is like, imagine you're in like a gunfight, and then you have these other guys who have like, you know, like a pistol or something, and they're going for like John Wick style headshots or something. But your style is like you have like this magazine and like 100 bullets in a mag, and then you just sit behind a couch and just like put your hand behind it and you just spray across the room. You're like, I'll hit them all eventually. Let's fucking just throw everything at them, and I have tons of bullets to use.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that. Like it literally just, you overwhelm them. You just like, it's sloppy, but it's like ridiculously consistent. It's just like tons of zealots, literally. Not too much micro required, because the zealots kind of micro themselves. Alright. So let's see what is going on for you. Oh, I forgot to share my screen. My bad. I just told you to do this, and you're like, I can't even see what you're doing, vibe. There you go. You should see now.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay.
I see it.
So we got a pylon first, easy peasy, nothing too crazy. Here's your gateway. There's your gas. Everything looks pretty normal. Second gas. Yeah, super normal so far. Yep. Very, very standard game. Double chrono boost on your Nexus. I like it for the style you're going for. Makes sense. Like if you're not going to go for like proxy Stargate or some shit, you definitely should be using your chronos. So I like it.
I definitely try to use my chrono if I'm not. There's not a reason to.
No, it's huge. That's really good because like it just makes your mid game stronger. Because it's going to give you more gas to develop your build with. Because your minerals are going to be kind of the same either way because you're doing a mineral priority. But it just gives you more gas to use later on. But it's not going to be as much of like a timing attack. So that's not what you're going for either. You're going for like a full-on 2-base, fully saturated 2-base type of a thing. So what you're doing is correct so far.
You're gonna love it. You're gonna love like kind of the irony of this game because like I wanted to be the bully this game with this style, but I ended up most of the time being the one bullied.
Oh, yeah. Well, like here's a big thing too, right? Like if you open up double stalker, you actually we'll see what we do with these stalkers, but if you don't run across the map with them, I feel like it's wrong.
I don't.
Okay.
I stayed defensive with these for some reason.
So if you stay defensive with stalkers, the best thing
I think it's because.
Or go ahead.
I think the reason I stayed home with the stalkers is because I didn't see any pylon or any like hint of an expansion going down at this person's natural. So that's why I didn't feel quite so comfortable like going out on the map. But I saw the second pylon, so I thought, oh, I better just stay there for a sec.
Sure. I would say like the thing about it is too that's important to know would be with your two stalkers, the only thing you really got to be worried about is if you run up a ramp where your opponent is already standing up there. Like if he's standing here and you run up here. So the best way you can maximize not getting fucked over by that is, I mean, if you catch units mid-map versus mid-map, then that's it. That's fine. Especially if you somehow catch a depths mid-map, that'd be super nice. But I mean, your units are going to run up. His units are going to run down on the right side. So you're going to be on the left. He's going to be on the right. But in general, if your opponent makes a depths and runs across the map and you just wall him out while you get across the map to his base, if you guys both expand as well, Adepts cannot do anything to the expansion, whereas Stalkers could like kill a pylon down here or something like that, or be more annoying. They could actually do damage.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
And then on top of that, another thing that you're doing that is, I would say, questionable here is this right here, this chrono boosted warp gate. And the only reason why it's questionable is because right now, if you actually just say, I would say you could do one of two things. One of them I think is honestly better, but I'll explain what they are. One of them would be saving the chrono just for a second, and the other would be using the chrono on your Nexus. I think saving the chrono would be better because what it would allow you to do is you could actually continue to make probes like slowly, and you could make your Nexus faster. But if you but it would actually allow you to also to get a fast saturated and natural. Like you could actually oversaturate your main all the way up until around almost 24. So let's say you have like 22 probes on the main, and you transfer 6 to your natural as soon as the natural's done. That would be a great way to do it out. And you could chrono boost the main as well once your natural started.
And if I had more probes, I could probably like start afford. I could probably afford to go into the constant warp-ins faster, right?
100%. Yeah, like you should be able to afford your warp-ins while making probes right now, no problem. Because what you can do instead is like you don't rush tech with it. You just make units for the initial time being. So this is where it kind of your build needs to be decisive as to what you're doing. So if you, for instance, cut probes. And you do this so you can like do something, for instance, like, oh, I'm gonna make a Nexus and a Robo. Well, that is putting again more emphasis on that Robo. You have to really make them like that needs to be a Robo that fucking like has 2 Immortals and a Prism, and you're flying around his base or something, and you're gonna do hits on his base, or you're gonna do an Immortal timing in general, or you're gonna do something with the like maybe a Disruptor drop or something with the Robo needs to happen. That is gonna be like what the game is based off of. Because if you actually cut probes to make tech, which I mean, I don't know that's what you're doing yet, but it seems like that's the road you're going down because you're cutting probes. That's just it puts too much emphasis on your tech if you're not going to be aggressive with that tech right away.
Yeah, I'm cutting probes to get the first units, my Nexus and the battery going, and then the tech.
So the other thing too is
I think I am queuing my probes again before I get my. Twilight in this game. I'm not sure yet. We'll see.
Another thing to keep in mind is I would say you really have to base the battery off of what you make off of the gateway. And if you're making 2 stalkers, you do not want to make a battery right away. You can still make a battery in general, but do not rush it. There's 0 reason to rush it.
Oh, yeah, I got the battery because my second 2 units are going to be sentries, and I might want to leave the base and go out a little bit into the map, and I just, it feels like it's safer to do it that way.
I agree with that, but like how we'll see what the build is. Like, let's see how early you take it, because like the feeling that I have here is your build is starting to fall off a bit because you're doing such a lack of emphasis on the income, and you're gonna still expand, and you're
got it. Okay.
We'll see what's going on with your build. It feels like it's unnecessarily slow for you for the cost of your gateway units essentially. So your probe scouted and he got away. He double stalkered, you double stalkered. You make your nexus. You make double sentry. You take your battery, and you just now start probes again. And then your stalkers are chilling, and the sentries are out. And is this around the time when you want to go attack him now? Because I would say, this is what I would say. Like, the fact that he did that, I don't like it. And the reason why is because if you're going to actually move out with your stalkers, you need to go, like, immediately. Because if you wait until this, for instance, happens, or like if either side waits until your opponent has had multiple waves of units to be able to spawn, you're never going to do any damage. Like, it's never going to happen. Like, it's actually one of the best case scenarios if you go stalker stalker and your opponent goes adept adept. That's like, if you actually attack with that, that's great for you, because you, as long as you have this walled, like you have a probe here ready to like battery this off or something like that. Because obviously if adepts are in your base and they just get into your base, that's fucking terrible. But
yeah.
if your opponent has not made his second 2 units yet, and let's say he's going adept adept, and behind that maybe he makes stalker sentry, or maybe he makes 2 more adepts. Like, these things are all amazing, versus stalker stalker. But when you have stalker stalker versus stalker stalker, it only makes sense to be aggressive if you're going to do it immediately. Again, and the reason why is because if you actually took advantage of this, what you could do right now is you could put a force field right there, like right here, and you could put a force field right there. And this guy would fucking lose his first 2 stalkers right now, like guaranteed.
Yeah, that would really ruin his day.
Yeah, and that would suck because that's just like a waste of gateway units right there. And it's a waste of 175 resources per stalker. So that's a humongous investment just thrown down the drain if this guy actually did this. And here's the thing too, right? Is I'm not trying to shit on the battery at all, but if you actually have double stalker here, this is not threatening to you at all. For the time being, I do think a battery is good eventually. But what I would tell you to do, honestly, the way I would tell your tech path to go, because this build just, it feels a bit awkward. Also, I'm not gonna lie, in my opinion, I think
it's awkward because I'm confused.
Yeah, I also think sentries go a lot better with Robo than Twilight Council. Like, the point I'm trying to make here is if you're gonna go for a if your build is actually to go for 3-gate blink, you actually, in my opinion, should make 0 sentries. If your opener is legit 3-gate blink, and then you can make, like, honestly, you don't even need sentries at all, really, because you're going to be using the blink stalkers to be aggressive anyways, and you want as many stalkers as possible when you are being aggressive, because the less you have, the less likely it's going to do damage. You're going to just more likely lose the fight if you're like, well, I'm down 3 stalkers where I shouldn't be because I made sentries, and
Sure.
And then that's also 300 gas too, right?
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. I mean, that extra gateway just felt like, whoa, what am I doing there? Am I gonna get my forge there now, or am I gonna like wait for the forge and robo later, which I think is what I did in this game. I guess if I'm just gonna keep making stalkers that go off and be aggressive, I just need a little bit of help or a pointer in figuring out what are the possibilities and what could the opponent be doing in his
That's
base.
why you be aggressive with the stalkers. You have to be aggressive with the stalkers if you're gonna go stalkers. So the stalkers see what's going on aggressively because of that.
Like, I wouldn't say I'm particularly good at identifying on feel whether or not DTs are a likelihood, for example.
You'll 100% you'll have observer before DTs spawn. Like, so what the build would be, because again, think about it like this: if you're not making sentries, that is so much fucking gas you'll have to make a robo and an observer. This is so expensive on your gas, and especially if you make more.
Oh, got it.
Uh,
Oh, okay. So you're saying that I could be like just queuing stalkers out of my gates
and make an observer too.
initially, and then make a robo
You can make a robo second
behind.
and still you make yeah exactly. You make a council first and then make a robo, and you will still have observers in time for DTs. If you don't make sentries, sentries do not pair at
Got
all
it.
with
Got it.
council openers.
Yeah, because right now usually what I try to do is I either okay I say I want to get at least one sentry so I can at least try to see what he's doing in his base, to eliminate DTs or not, or what I do is I go, okay, how likely is he to have DTs? Well, I see he has two sentries and a stalker up there, so I don't know how he has the gas for it,
Sure.
you know. But then every now and then I'm really caught with my pants down
Yeah.
because I just did not
I would just
did not
say
have good enough game sense
I would just
to.
say in general, like if you're gonna go sentry, that is a defensive unit, right? You're not gonna be poking him with sentries. It's in PvP. It's very unlikely that you're gonna be running sentries across the map and just getting
Oh,
these
for
timings
sure.
done. So they're
Yeah, and I don't. And
yeah
I see videos where like people are doing that, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do that because I'm just gonna lose my sentries.
yeah no well
Like,
like those kinds of builds as well. I feel like a lot of
like,
times those builds pair with the robo. They pair with because the sentry supports the immortals so fucking strong, like hard, because you can
yeah.
like the only one it would ever be paired with a robo that's not based off immortals is like if let's say you actually had blink and you had sentries inside of like a prism and you literally like flew over to the guy's cliff and you dropped sentries here to force field the ramp and you blinked into the main, like something like that could happen too, but that is a very 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 specific kind of a build that it's like one build out of so many that you could do. But in general, sentries, the philosophy of a sentry is that you're going to play defensive with it. So it pairs way better with a robo. And the idea of a stalker is you're going to play aggressive with it, especially if but the thing is a stalker is kind of like multi-versatile, but it depends what tech you go with stalker. So if you go robo stalker, suddenly sentries make a lot of sense. And stalkers just buffer extra damage in your army and it's wonderful. It's great. It's awesome. But if you go
Yeah.
stalker council,
Right.
that is not a sentry friendly build. Um, so it's just one of those things where if you were actually poking your opponent with stalkers and you go for like a faster blink, by the time you start blink, you could already also start a robo, and your observer will be out by like a little over 4 minutes. Like you'll definitely
Okay, and that
yeah.
sounds pretty safe
You'll
against
definitely
DTs,
have
to be honest.
yeah 100%. There's no risk of DTs at all, because the worst case scenario too. Let's just say you get an observer and then you make new stalkers back at home, and let's say he's got like 4 DTs walking in your base because he's super all in with it, and you have 8 stalkers on the map and you have like 2 stalkers at home with an observer. You can just recall your stalkers, install with the 2 stalkers and observer that you have at home, and suddenly 8 more stalkers arrive and you just fucking destroy the DTs.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then even if you didn't do that, you just run around in circles, run away from the DTs with probes, and chase them with observer, stalker, whatever. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it's just
Yeah, I do feel like the sentries slow me down a
100%
lot
they
when
do.
I'm trying to do the stalker like fast blink poke style because it feels like I'm not like committing enough in either direction
Yeah, you're
to
definitely
really.
middle of the road, 100%. And that's how, like
Yeah.
what it's gonna do too is one of the big strengths of what stalkers can do is you can get in there, you can like focus fire a unit, blink away, and you actually kill a unit, but you have to hit breakpoints to do that, where it's gonna one shot the unit, because you don't want to be sitting there concaving and blinking one at a time and then being like, all right, I just did as much damage as possible. Now I'll run away, because if you do it like that, where it's just concave versus concave, a lot of times you'll be fighting into someone's battery, right? So then the battery will
Yeah.
just heal the concave, where you're just going to take free damage essentially. But if you have enough stalkers to focus fire and then immediately in the fight, because you blink away, so you disengage, the more stalkers you have, the more likely you're going to hit those breakpoints to one shot and it break through a battery's healing because you just one shot the unit. So yeah, like again, right now, because like what this is worth in terms of your gas is 6 stalkers, right? That's fucking crazy expensive on the sentry. So you'll be 100% be able to afford a faster robo and then blink with this.
So I have another question real quick.
Sure.
Regarding kind of like just opening with this stuff. So I got to the base and I scouted, and this person, I don't know if it's he or she,
Sure.
but the Protoss had chrono banked, didn't seem to be spending it on anything in particular.
Uh huh.
And so if I feel like there could be something like a Stargate out on the map somewhere, should I, like, instead of poking with the stalkers, should I go look for proxies, or should I just let my next 2 stalkers go into my main mineral line and stay there, or how should I respond to feeling like there could be Stargate and oracles in
So
my mineral line.
I would say this, okay? So you actually saw everything you needed to see to know that it doesn't exist, and the reason why is because when you got into this person's base, you saw a pylon, you saw a double gate. This already means that it's going to be delayed. The Stargate is already delayed if you see that. It's not like rushed Stargate if anyone goes multi-gateway before core. And then behind this, you see second pylon already. This is another reason why it's delayed. And here's the big thing too. You do see saved chrono boost, but it's not ridiculous. This is one saved chrono because you made 2 chronos on your units. He's only made 1 chrono on his units. So this is a moment where there is a minor difference in the chrono boost investment, and it's not to say that like this person couldn't go for some weird proxy type shit, but you have to realize that if they did do that, it already is going to be delayed compared to what it could be if they went for the fastest possible proxy ever. So if you notice something like that, it already puts less pressure on you to feel threatened, because this is the best, basically the way I would best describe it. And this is not even assuming you chrono boost your core, okay? If you see this, you can already guarantee that if you get proxy by something, you're going to have warp gate before it's done. Like, guaranteed. And if you don't see this, if you see 1 gate, 1 core, no second pylon, now suddenly you have a problem, because that could be a proxy unit before your warp gate's done. And and if you have warp gate done and you get let's say you have a pylon here, or like let's say you have a pylon up there because you're actually paranoid about it, and you're like, there's maybe a proxy Stargate, and you see an oracle like right out here flying into your base, you could literally warp in stalkers as it comes in, and you'd negate it 100%. Wouldn't even do anything.
Okay, cool. No, I'll give it a try. I think also on this particular replay, if, as we go a little bit further into it, I come back in. I think I come back in a little while to see where the chrono's going, and the chrono is just still sitting there. Yeah. And I'm like, what are you doing with your? Sure. Why is that chrono there?
I'm happy you're looking at that too. That's really good. Because that is relevant, and I would say the best thing you can do now is, I mean, there's a double pylon in the main base, so this feels good for you. And then as you leave the base, you see this is another sign that tells you there's no proxy. There's a 3rd pylon. This is another investment, right? And not only that, you also just saw double stalker, is like, which just obviously tells you that he's.
And I think I missed that. I don't think I picked up on that I think I was too laser focus on escaping with the probe.
Sure.
And I didn't notice the pylon because, I sat back there with the stalkers, and that third, if I had noticed the 3rd pylon, I would have advanced them.
Sure.
Because then I would have thought I would. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I get it. But yeah, like that definitely tells you that this dude's investing into the potential of a natural. Like, it's not guaranteed yet, but he's definitely investing into the potential of a natural. And the fact that he showed you already that he made 2 stalkers, that tells you. Because if you think about it like this, go back to when you started 2 stalkers. Look at your money when you started 2 stalkers. So your core finishes and your gateway finishes, and you make 2 stalkers right as this is done, and your money is fully spent. You have no gas, especially your gas. You have no gas to even work with here. So if you really think about the possibility of a proxy Stargate, and your opponent makes double stalker like you did, but here's the thing, right? You double chrono boosted your main base early, and your opponent only single chrono boosted his main. So you have more gas than he does. That is a fact. That is like guaranteed, because that's why the second chrono boost gives you is just faster gas, because you get the probes in the gas faster. So your opponent should have less gas than you. And if you know your opponent has less gas than you, and you pick up on the fact that your opponent also opens up with double stalker, that should tell you automatically that there is, if there is a proxy Stargate, it's going to be so late, because how the hell could you afford that, right? You could not have afforded that, and you had more gas than your opponent.
Well, I guess I could also like try to pay attention, because I didn't look. I need to start doing this more too. I never eyeball how many workers are in the gas.
Sure.
When I'm doing like my initial probe scout to the base, I'm never like looking like, okay, are there 3 in each right now, and the undersaturator. That's a really good. That's a really good tip. I don't think I got that read at all.
Yeah. No.
That's.
It's huge, right? Because like if you knew that, there's no reason to be afraid of a proxy Stargate or a proxy like Dark Shrine or something like that. Like,
yeah, because I mean, like you said, I barely have the gas for what I needed to do, and I open with the same units.
Yep, and yeah, exactly. And you prioritize your gas more than this guy did, so you know that he's got just less gas than you do. So you should already feel like you're ahead. And then the fact that you both went double stalker you can definitely poke the area over here, but you got to be careful. And what I was going to say before, but I don't think I ever did, was if you actually know for a fact it's double stalker versus double stalker, you need to be very careful, because what you can do is you can walk your stalkers to like the edge of the ramp, like right here, somewhere in this area. Do not run up the ramp to where like you're like right there and you're like, oh yeah, I'm already getting shot in the face, let's run away now, because you close all this. Like if his stalkers are there and you're like literally run right there and you get shot in the face as you run to there, he can actually chase you and center step you and kill you. But if you run to right here and then you back up really quickly, so like you go there, back up to like right here, and you just test to see if a shot comes down and hits you in the face, and if it does, just back up. Be like, all right, no, he's camping the ramp, and now I've already made distance before he shot me to where I'm not gonna die now.
You know, I actually think at this moment I thought he opened Stalker Sentry because the second unit didn't spawn at the same time, and I thought he might have rallied the sentry back into his base, so I didn't see it. And I know I'm not making a very excellent case for myself or keeping my stalkers at home the further this goes on.
Yeah, that's okay.
But
it's, well, you know, I get it. Like, I mean, because you do see it, right? And if you paid attention to that, you would see it. But I know you're macroing as well. You're doing other shit. You got other things going on too. But if you actually thought to yourself, you're like, oh, that's got to be a, you know, the sentry's back here, I could probably do it. Then it would just only reinforce the fact that you would want to move out right away. Because the whole point of this now would be, you actually, if you go double stalker and your opponent does not go double stalker, you definitely want to capitalize on smashing their base before they get a battery. So you literally have only 29 seconds to get over there, like right now, because you saw that pylon was underway. And then so that's right. That's the idea of stalkers, and so it needs to be, if you're gonna go double stalker, it needs to be somewhat aggressive. Like you need to poke out there and see what's going on and try to do some type of damage. And just be ready for the fact that if you don't get a unit read like this, let's say it's a question mark, just always be ready with another extra probe that's not one of these mining probes. So like the 23rd probe essentially should just be chilling right here, like maybe after you build your nexus, or like right before, just like have a probe here ready to go when you know your units are getting close to his base. If you don't have a probe there, that's a problem. That's scary. But again, you can still keep making stalkers instead, because again, you're doing a stalker style with a council. That makes way more sense for your playstyle. And then like I said, you do not need a battery. Like you literally can make a battery with this kind of a playstyle, like after you make the robo. Honestly, if you're not going to go sentries, if you go stalker sentry first,
if I'm opening up 4 stalkers, I'm definitely not going to do that.
100%, yeah. But if you were to open sentry, then it does make sense. But then again, your tech doesn't make sense with it as much. The only way that this would make sense with your tech is if this is going to go straight to a dark shrine, I feel like, because then you could actually like guard your ramp with force fields, and you could actually do something that is tech based again. Because again, sentry is the best way to describe sentry, just to put it out there for anybody that's confused about what this unit is designed for. It is a tech support unit. It is not a gateway support unit. This unit sucks if you use it as a gateway support unit. The only way that works is if your opponent's like really far behind. This unit needs to support tech units in some way. Otherwise, it's gonna just feel like it's like a question mark. Why do I use it? It's like it's awkward. So like right now, your stalker push is going out, and it's only like a few stalkers, and your blink is halfway done. You see your opponent's going for immortals and a council, and you take a third base. I would also say, here's the other thing too, right? You actually don't have gas. But with the way you've done your build, your third base is actually super fucking late. So what do you have? Like, what do you have behind this? You have.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I thought it was like normal, like 5 o'clock ish.
No, if you go for like three gate stalker and you get natural saturated and shit like that, like your third base should be going down like 4:30. On it, like much faster.
Because I can get away with it. Then.
Yeah, like you still make stalkers during it. It's just like. One of the things I think really fucked you as well is you didn't make probes for a long time. So like your natural set up saturation really slowly, which is why also you're down by 5 probes right now. And you've been down by probes for a while too. And, I mean, he did kill one of your probes, so you could only be down by 4, I guess. But yeah,
I just thought that that probe cut like that happens like right around the time that your gates are finishing and like the natural's getting set up. I thought that was like totally typical. In PvP.
I mean, it depends. It depends what your build is. I would say it's typical if you're going to do a tech build. If you're going to do a build that relies more on tech and you want to get your tech out for that reason, like if you're like squeezing out a Stargate, if you're squeezing out a Robo, if you're doing something, or if you're going to squeeze out a council to go into like a Dark Shrine, I feel like it makes more sense then. But if you're going to do a build that
Yeah.
relies on more money because you want more gateways to overwhelm your opponent, you don't want to cut money. Because more money means you overwhelm your opponent, so you need money.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Like when I'm doing like I like an all-in, a 2-base all-in, like with the Zergs, I like tend to like I chrono the Nexuses like non-stop just to get saturated as fast as
Yeah, it's good.
possible.
I mean, it only increases your timing, and like because you gotta think about the kind of build you want to do, right? If your build is like a one and done, if you're like, okay, so I have like this big punch, one punch like hit that's gonna hit them super fucking hard. It's gonna be like 90% of my build's power, and then yeah, sure, I could have like a prism there that could reinforce a little bit here and there, but it's really about that first push. Those kinds of builds, you definitely want to probably prioritize your tech rather than your economy a bit more. So maybe chrono boosting your like your immortals or chrono boosting your void ray or whatever the fuck unit you're making, and maybe cutting probes here and there to make sure you get those units out even faster. But if your build is not something like that, and instead it's a build that says, well, my first attack is only going to be like 20% of my entire army because I plan on making it like 5 more times while we fight. Like I'm going to just literally flood his base. You need money pretty bad with that. Like those builds definitely need good economy to support that because, again, you're just throwing a bank account at your opponent essentially and hoping that they break over time. It's an endurance build essentially. All right, and then like with how
Here I am just sitting around
I
at home.
was gonna say with how passive you're being right now, definitely don't want to be passive now because if you do this kind of a build, this should not pair with sentries because again you're doing a stalker pressure build. Honestly, like if you do make sentries, like 1 max, but that would be like, and that's the battery opener with stalker sentry. That would be defensive opener until you had blink, and that also does work. But multi sentry is definitely committed here. That's a bit over excessive. But if you even do no sentries, the stalkers themselves can scout indirectly by constantly getting around and poking around and shit like that. And yeah, like that would show you like, is there a third? Yep, I need to go pop the pylon, maybe pop the nexus. Like he's out of position, right? And then when he gets over here, what if you engage that army and you just pop a stalker and blink away right away? Because you know you have the ability to blink. So like, what if he shoots your first stalker, you blink your 1 stalker in the front backwards first, but your whole other stalker line volleys into his 1 stalker, and you just blink all your stalkers back after that. You just not only maybe deny a third base, but you also kill 1 unit while you make another round. And then you just do it again and again and again. And eventually you get to a point where if you're not taking gas at the natural and not taking gas at the 3rd and the 4th and whatever, you just have like this fucking surge of gateways that just goes crazy zealot spam afterwards. And when your opponent gets to the point to where he's just going to all in you, or if you're doing a great job with the stalkers, it will turn into that. A lot of times they will feel flustered to just feel like they have to commit to an attack. And then you just overwhelm them with like 40 zealots or like 30 zealots.
Yeah, it's very frustrating because you can see it. You can see the amount of stalkers I have right there and the size of this person's army at the moment.
Sure.
I feel like I could have gotten something done.
100% you could have. You definitely, because you definitely could like 1-shot volley and then blink away and then set up somewhere else. Like look how he goes over here. Here's an example. If you notice your opponent's over there, you know what you can do? You can literally run into his main base. And then you can fuck up his pylons and maybe do like 1 or 2 volleys into the, like maybe 1 volley into the probes, run up the ramp, like blink up the ramp, and then kill the pylon, run over here, kill a pylon, blink down the cliff and run away. Like if he's out of position and you know he opened Robo first because he's making immortals while you're making stalkers, you know that, and like, and also here's another thing too, right? If you know your opponent's hallucinating scouting you, like if hallucinations are flying over your base, you can almost guarantee he's going Robo. Because again, if someone goes hallucination scouts and they're pairing that with a council, it's not as common. And if they pair that with a Stargate, it's like in the middle. I think Stargate's kind of in the middle. You can kind of do both, but it depends on how they play Stargate. But it's one of those things that just pairs with the Robo, so you can already assume it's a Robo. And if you can then confirm it's a Robo, you can definitely abuse people who play like this by abusing your mobility before they have Blink, because you know eventually he will have Blink too. But if you slow his economy down like crazy, while he's trying to get to that point eventually, like you can just take fatter, bigger leads while you're at it. So like the fact that you went for Blink first, yeah, it doesn't suit the way you're playing because you're playing so passive. Like the way you play passive like this, it should just be a Robo. If this was going to be the consistent.
It's kind of indicative of the way I would usually play with the +2 bus.
Sure.
I don't want to play like that. Like I want to learn what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I think that that's just bad habit. It's just a
sure.
function on my habit.
And here's another one.
Just,
Check this out. Remember how I said your third base should be going down maybe like 4.5 minutes? Your fourth base should be going down probably like 6 minutes. Like your economies are just like super delayed, and it's just fucking your build over because your pacing is actually behind him when you're going for the less powerful army. Like he's going for the power units of Immortal and like Robo, like stronger, more, because Immortal is more expensive than 2 Stalkers. It's more expensive than 2 Zealots. And you're just going Stalker Zealot, and he's going Immortals as well. So his army actually is more, it's worth more supply than what it says it's worth, because his investment of army is actually more expensive than yours. And he still has more supply than you, and it just means your pacing is slow. And the fact that you're going for gases a lot now, it doesn't really pair with the style you want to play again, because if you wanted to go for gases like this, you should have prioritized it earlier. And if you wanted to go for like this also pairs better with a Robo, because if you were going to play passive gasser, like gas more kind of a build, it would pair better with like Archons and Immortals rather than a handful of Stalkers, right? Because like right now you have 17 Stalkers, he has 15 Stalkers. This is still a very comparable number despite how much gas you have being made now. Like it's just gonna slow your Zealots down now like crazy. And at this point, Zealots also are better than Stalkers now, too, as well. Like, you only want to have... Here's the magic number of Stalkers you want to have. You want to get to about, like, 20 to 25. Somewhere around there is honestly ideal. Anything above 25 starts getting a little bit excessive. Okay. And if you do go up there, you can, but it starts getting a bit excessive, and here's why.
So I'm on, like, 19 there, right? So I'm, like, almost at the...
You're on 17 right now.
Or no, 17, yeah. 17. Okay.
So the reason why 20 to 25 Stalkers is super good is because for the most part, you're gonna get like if you're in the area, most of your Stalkers are, if you can focus fire something down, it's mostly gonna shoot what you want to shoot, and 20 to 25 Stalkers can guaranteed 2-shot an Immortal or an Archon, which is really nice. It might even, but it's way more than half their health though. Like you're gonna almost 1-shot them, but if the Zealots have done any damage to pepper onto it, or maybe some of your Stalker shots hit it a little bit before, there's a good chance you might even 1-shot his units. Like that you're focused, like Immortal, focus dead. Archon, focus dead. Mortal, focus dead. And then not only that, but it allows you, once you have like 20 to 25, it allows you to do things like insta-kill fucking pylons and batteries and like very quickly kill nexuses. Because if you think about how much damage these do, that's 180 damage per Stalker, or per 10 Stalkers. So it's 360 damage per 20 Stalkers. And that's only versus armored, right? So Immortal has 400 health overall when you first hit it. So like I said, if you have 20 Stalkers, it's not going to quite 1-shot it, but it's close. It's always going to 2-shot it. And if you have 20 Stalkers versus like an Archon, you're doing 130 per 10, so it's 260 per 20. And then an Archon only has 360, so 260 plus 260 is 520. Or yeah. So you're 2-shotting these big boys that are super effective. But then you're also popping Nexuses super fucking fast if you ever get opportunity to, like, if he's over here, you blink into his base and just pop a fucking Nexus really quick after like 5 volleys or 6 volleys, which is, if you think about it, it only would take you like 8 seconds to kill a Nexus. And you think about how fast 8 seconds goes by in the game, right? It's super fast. And then, you know, same thing with the main. Like, if he's over here and you somehow blink into his main base, you can just insta-kill that fucking Nexus and then blink back out of the base and run away. Like, there's so much opportunity of aggression with this army that you have to take advantage of to play the style properly. And if you play it so passively, it literally, it never will feel like it's good. And that's why, again, the biggest point I'm trying to make here is the fact that you're behind in supply is, this is already a hard position for you to be in.
Yeah. You're not going to like what happens in the next couple of minutes. I do manage to win this game, but I don't feel like I deserved it at all.
Sure, no
especially when you consider the way I was intending to play the game.
Yeah,
so here I am. I don't know why my Stalkers are just sitting there.
Yeah,
I think I just went back to macroing and put them there or whatever.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Like, I feel like you were, like, making gateways and shit. You're making more gateways over here.
Yeah.
You're literally exploding your gate count like crazy. And, like, I feel like this, too. These cannons, way too early. And I think you're making these cannons because you delayed your robo like crazy. Do you even have an observer right now?
I made the cannons because I'm out in the map and I just didn't want to get caught by DT run-bys or something.
That's
like,
why your observer should, you should, if you want to, just make 2 observers. Like, have 1 observer, defensive, and have 1 observer, aggressive, so you can blink over cliffs. That's it, honestly. Like, you don't even need to have it with your army, really.
I don't want to get caught by DT run-bys, but he just strolls his RB across the map.
Yeah, right.
I'm in a random corner. And
Yeah, because all this is doing, this again, it's counterproductive to your style. You're making static
yeah.
D and you're playing aggressive styles. It like I'm not saying you can't ever make static D, but you can't open because here's the best way to describe this. This is the difference between what you're doing to yourself and what would happen if you played a more aggressive style. If you actually invested heavily into stalkers, you would know for a fact your opponent couldn't go DT because he's scraping the bottom of the barrel to just stay alive against your stalkers. And
Yeah.
you could force that. You could like, because here's the thing, right? If your opponent is like, you know what, I'm gonna just stop making units while you kill them, and I'm gonna go for fucking DTs. And if you just make an, because again, there's no reason why you can't make an observer. We already said that the build could work with it. It totally can. And if your reinforcements, the new units that get warped in, because you don't have a proxy pylon, there's no prism, you're not warping it aggressively. You're just walking across the map with what you already have, and you're warping in the rest of your units defensively. If you leave an observer here, and your opponent goes, I'm just gonna make DTs, he'll lose units over time if you're doing a good job being aggressive, and he'll break while your stalkers overwhelm him because he invests like 1,000 resources to tech and make DTs. And then you're like, wow, why doesn't he not have a lot of units defending his base? As opposed to if you make cannons for like the fear of DTs, it weakens your timing because you're investing more money into making static D that you don't need early on like this because you're making it so fast, and because you're making it like around 100 supply, right? You're making it when you're very low supply, and then it just, if your army's gonna be weaker now, it just makes your opponent's life easier where he's now going, okay, my opponent's being aggressive, but I can handle that. Like, it's not actually making me feel like I'm being pressured very hard. And every single additional cannon you make is going to only further that down that line of not feeling threatening. So you're just you're weakening your attack essentially.
You get supply blocked a lot in this game too. Very frustrating.
Sure, that's going to be something that's definitely going to happen to you when you're in the middle of trying to micro and macro at the same time. And then this right here, this is a scary fight for you. And the only reason why I say that is, like, this could work. I mean, the fact that you have a prism with it is actually not bad. That's going to definitely give you an edge there. But the thing that's kind of scary about this, again, is that your opponent has, again, more powerful units than you do, and he's got more supply than you. And
I actually didn't know he was there. Like, I didn't know the fight was about to start right there. I was planning to warp in with that prism, but when I was closer to get, yeah.
I would say, though, like, you shouldn't be moving out with your zealots anyways right now, yet. And if you do, it shouldn't be to take a fight, period. Like, you should have zealots maybe on the right side going to kill a nexus, and like your stalkers on the left side. So that every single time your opponent tries to engage you, you disengage by running away. And like you engage the other place where he isn't. Because this style, you should not feel like you want to pull the trigger when you're like way below max. Like, you want this style, again, it's all about the way it should work if you're doing it properly is you should get to 200 supply much faster than your opponent. So your power spike of actually deciding to run across the map with your main army gathered like this, where it looks like you're gearing up to take a fight. Maybe you don't realize it's right there. Again, it's totally fine. But I feel like your army's intention is to go here and take a fight soon. Like, it looks like you're running across the map to take a fight at his base. And this is not your power spike window to do that because there's so much more time for you to max out. And again, the fact that you're not over him in supply just means there's a fundamental flaw in your build. So because it should just be a thing where you want to maximize your stalker annoyance as long as possible. And then if your opponent's being really fucking greedy and you're like, oh my, this guy's on 4 fucking bases when I'm being this aggressive, no, I don't think so. That's when you could be like, okay, zealots come here and stalkers go here, get his attention, hit him. He's over here with his whole army. I'm blinking around and shit, being super annoying, and suddenly zealots just wipe out a fucking nexus. And then zealots shift, like, run away back to my base after they kill the nexus.
Yeah, okay, great. I think what worked in my favor also in this game is I think my opponent's making a mistake right now by investing in a Stargate in Phoenix.
100%.
I don't know why he did that.
Agreed.
Like, I didn't show a single immortal. I don't understand why.
No, people just do shit in general. They just have styles that they're like, this is what I do, and I'm a Phoenix guy in the mid game. This is how I like it. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, the fact that this guy's making static D as well, the fact that this guy's double teching now into Dark Shrine and fucking Phoenix, and also, I mean, he's making more static D and he's not even using it. He's literally in the middle of the map. Like, it doesn't make sense either for how what he's doing is he's kind of fucking himself over too. because he's underinvesting into his army right now, and he's taking a fight in the middle of the map with you, and that's not ideal. And another really scary thing about what's going on for him is his army is like 90% Stalker, and like he's got like 4 Zealots. It's like 80% Stalker. It's mostly Stalker, a couple of Zealots, 1 Sentry, and a couple of Immortals. Your Zealots could actually run this army over. Like Zealots versus no Archon is fucking scary for Protoss.
Yeah, and I knew all my gates were coming online too, so I was like, oh.
Yeah, no,
okay.
if he takes this fight, I could totally see you winning this fight, but realistically, I mean, you're both obviously. You can argue that you're both making mistakes, right? So that's why things can go whatever way they go. Yeah. But yeah. The biggest now this is a problem for you, right? So the fact that that fight was a disengage and now he's going Archon. Now I would say, logically he has the advantage here. But now here's the thing too, right? You're going Archons as well, so your composition is honestly, I would say it's weaker than what your opponent's is because you're both going Chargela Archon, but he's going Chargela Archon Immortal, and you're just going Chargela Archon. And Chargela Archon Immortal is overall better, and the reason why is because it's a triple concave. Zealots fight Zealots in a melee. Archons fight in the medium range right behind Zealots, and Immortals fight behind Archons because they're longer range. Your long range unit is a Stalker, which does not even do remotely as close to damage that Immortals do. So if this dude actually got to a point where he had like, let's say 7 Immortals and like 8 Archons, and then you just have 14 Stalkers and then 8 Archons, something like that, like you're gonna not even remotely touch the damage that his Immortals do with your Stalkers, because Stalkers do less damage than Immortals, period. Like, not only with damage that they do, but attack speed is ridiculously in favor of the Immortal as well. Like, an Immortal's DPS meter is just fucking way higher than a Stalker's. It scales way better. That's why I was saying, like, 1 Immortal is the same supply cost as 2 Stalker, and it scales better than 2 Stalker. It's so good. So this is just scary. This is a position for you where this should be a second, like a last resort, where you go, okay, the game has stabilized, and I wasn't able to control him or like kill him. He's actually managing to, like, you know, take the reins of the game himself, and the game is now becoming a mid-game stalemate for a moment here. That's when you should explode your gas and take Archons. But it shouldn't be your first focus.
I thought it, to be honest, I thought it was kind of like the way you play Zerg a little bit, where you get the bases up early and then you saturate them, and once you got your third base fully saturated, that's when you start taking all your gas. Like, I thought that's the way.
That style would pair better with Immortals first, like Robo Opener, kind of what he did, right? It would just pair better with that kind of a style.
It's not the way I want to play. It's just that's what I thought.
Sure. I
guess it was supposed to happen. I don't know.
Yeah, no, because like if you're gonna go for Stalker, like again, like the Council Opener with the Stalker, and you're gonna do pressure, and then you're gonna make a bunch of Zealots behind it. What that build really is it's very light on the gas, and you should honestly, by like 10 minutes, you should have 5 bases minerals only, like 5 Nexus mining minerals by like at least somewhere before 10 minutes. So like if your 4th base is going down by 6 minutes, realistically your 5th base should be going down by probably like 7:30 or like 8 minutes. Like you expand so goddamn fast because you have so much minerals to work with, and that's why I was saying your build scales ridiculously fast against your opponent, because you're just cranking out Zealot, and Zealots also build the fastest out of the gateway units. They have a okay, where's the gateway that's not being used? I think they're all being used. But yeah, like a Zealot has a much quicker cooldown. It's a Stalker's a 23-second cooldown, and a Zealot is a 20-second cooldown. So it's just faster. Like you can make more rounds of them more often, right? So if you really think about it, if you're cranking it out like as fast as you can, you're pumping out 3 Zealots a minute per gateway. And if you have 10 gateways, that's 60 supply a minute, right? Because you're making 20 supply every fucking 20 seconds. So I mean. And that's not even assuming 10 gateways is actually really on the low end too. You're gonna make like 16 or like almost maybe even 20 gates with this kind of a build. So you're gonna be able to pump out like 120 supply a minute with this build. If you're really, because again, if you have like 20 gates, and each round is 40 supply, and you can do 3 rounds of it, that's fucking insane how fast you can do that. And that's what this build should be like. That's why your supply should be like 200, 160, 200, 160, 200, and then your opponent's like 150, 140, 130, 120, and he's just like slowly going down because you're just literally overwhelming him. So the fact that you're behind again, that's just, it goes to show that your economy is not strong enough. And again, the way you're playing it now, This is a power-based economy. It literally is like a power economy because you have light probes, which means the only way that would ever make sense is if you're saving supply for power units. Like if you're making immortals and archons as your focus, and you're not. So this game is super hard in a position for you that's just gonna be rough.
I have no shame in saying that I deserve to lose this game so bad. I don't understand how this person just walked by me twice. Like, yeah, then he gets trapped, and that was not a good blink.
Yeah, I would agree.
And
yeah, no, I
sometimes people just don't have a good assessment of how the fight's going, and they do that and they lose.
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel like that was definitely a bit of a blunder, and the reason why you're honestly winning is because he actually has so many stalkers. Like he has so many, and he's making more. Stalkers at this stage of the game are terrible. Like if you're going Zealot Stalker, they're good behind the Zealot, but again, you're not making 50 Stalkers or like 60 Stalkers. You're making literally 20 to 25, and you're stopping, just so you can support your Zealots to pick off his tech units, like pick off his Archons, and then your Zealots are really the focus, right? But the fact that he's going mostly Stalkers against your Zealots, one Zealot beats one Stalker, and one Zealot is cheaper than one Stalker. What he needs to be making right now is fucking Archons and Zealots himself.
Yeah.
Like the,
So
yeah,
that's
the
pretty
Phoenix
much
as well.
it. Like I just basically walk over, and that's
You win because he texted. He unfortunately for him, he
Yeah.
texted the Phoenix, and he's going Mass Stalker again. So
And
he's
I found
definitely gonna die.
I saw the Phoenix down by my base while this was all happening. I saw it down at the 4th location. I was like, why does he have 4 Phoenix?
No, that definitely is not the right time for it. I think he probably, honestly, if I had to guess, just to give him the benefit of the doubt, he probably made Phoenix just because like he probably deals with Protosses quite often that go like disruptors, and he like wants to pick them up or some shit. Like there's a purpose, right? So, but I mean that's where Protosses like kind of like assume people do shit, but you don't actually know what they're doing, and then when they're not, you're like, oh fuck, whoops, okay, well that was a bad idea.
It's like, this guy's bad. He doesn't get disruptors. What the hell?
Yeah. All right, so I want to give you a replay now of a more proper version of what you're looking for here, and I feel like that game. I don't even know if you ever maxed out that entire game, honestly.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I did not.
Okay.
Because so, I didn't like put my 4th back down right away. I just got more gateway units, and it's awful.
Yeah, no, it's all good. What map was that on? The fuck? Was it on?
That was on Oxide.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I was like not clicking Oxide. I don't know why. Okay, so I will. I'll just keep doing my perspective, and I'll just give you the replay through Discord. Just easy peasy. Okay. And then, yeah, feel free again while I'm doing this. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. It's all good. And yeah, I'll just kind of like run you through exactly how you want to go with it. And literally, it's all about just really trying to maintain your damage while you're poking around with Stalkers while trying not to fuck up your build, right? And then really maximizing your probes, because it's all about getting to that like Zealot remax position as fast as you can. That's when you really have control of the game. Alright, so we got our camera hotkeys set up. Gonna build my pylon, saturate my close mineral patches because that is actually super important. Gives you more money. Build our pylon.
I've been working on that. I've been working on that a lot, by the way.
That's really good.
Proud of me.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. That's something that everyone needs to really do, and the more you realize that you need to do it and you actually get good at it, the more you're gonna be like, wow, I can afford everything. This feels great. So I'm proud of you. Good job. Keep it up. Keep doing it. Don't stop. Okay, build our gateway. Build our gas. Build our second gas in a second here. And build our second gas. And build our second gateway. And then we can go across the map and we can see what's going on. Your opener was totally fine. I didn't mind your opener at all. Of like the very, like up to this point, right? Of this part of the game. Okay, we're making our gases. We're chronobusing our probes again. We're about to make that core. Grab a probe and just make our core really quick. Now we'll get ready to make a pylon for the second pylon. probe. Scouting, and you know, this is obviously when you can be in his base, just checking out what the hell's going on. And if you're gonna go, if you're gonna go for double Stalker, you don't even need to stay. I'm not even kidding, because it's the aggressive option, and you should just poke him anyways. Understanding how to poke is a big deal, and poking him is totally validated.
Cool, understood.
Okay, so now let's make another probe, and we're bringing our probe back from earlier. And we have our Stalkers rallied down towards the bottom of the ramp. We can make our pylon, and in a second here we'll make our nexus. So we can actually cut units for a second here, like actual gate units just for a second, and then we'll go right back into making Stalkers as a secondary after this pylon's done. So make our nexus.
Yep.
And then make probes saturate the natural, and then leave like one probe here at our fucking doorway in case this guy attacks us with, you know, adepts, and we're making Stalkers again right now. So you're still making probes, but you're making Stalkers as a secondary. We're not really that intimidated by anything that can happen because we have Stalkers coming anyways. Okay, then we can make another probe, and we're poking around with Stalkers, and then we'll make another pylon in just a second. And this is around the time when adept should be going in your base right now, so you'd really want to pay close attention and be like, battery that shit if he does it.
Yeah.
And then this is also when you'd want to poke around the ramp like this, make sure you don't get shot. And if you don't get shot, you can definitely go up the ramp and see what's going on. And this is when you can poke him and confirm what's going on with him, shit like that. But we're still making Stalkers, and we're still making probes, and we're still, you know, pumping all of our units. Remember how we said we would have like 22 probes around the time when our natural's about to be done? Now we have this nicely fucking saturated natural that's just going to be like cranking out like crazy right away. And if this guy is aggressive, we still have a shitload of Stalkers that can help us. And now that we're about to start our council, we can, in our third gateway, we can now go into a shield battery, which is going to be right, also our robo is going to come right after. So at third gateway, council, transfer over some probes to the natural. And now we're already on a half saturated mirror line. We can chrono boost our nexus because we can afford it. We can start making Stalkers as well with warp gate. We can start our robo, and then right after that, we're taking our third base. So make another Stalker. Let's make our robo now, and then we'll take our third base. So robo right now. And we already have almost a fully saturated third by like 4 minutes, right? Like 4:20. So we can send a probe now to towards our third base. We can get a blink upgrade, and let's take our third base right now. And you can also start chrono boosting your blink upgrade now that you have it, because you want to be aggressive with that, right? You want that. You want to make sure that your blink upgrade is actually going to be utilized, because that's what this game is heavily based off of. So now we're taking our third base. Keep making probes as a priority. Let's start on one pylon, so because we're getting really close to blocking, and then go back to making Stalkers again. And chrono boost our blink again because it's done. And we at this point, it's kind of risky to push out on the map. I'm not gonna lie, because you could definitely get fucked up. If you are out there, like actually trying to do some damage with your Stalkers, because if he counters you, you could definitely get counter-attacked. And, you know, unless you have a recall, you're going to be super far out of the way. But now, again, one more chrono boost in the blink. And now I would say after this chrono boost, and once we have observers coming now, do like one final round of our Stalkers. And now is when you can really make the choice now. When you have, like, let's say, roughly almost like 14, 15, 16 Stalkers, anywhere in this range, you can now get ready to push out. Like, I would say right now would be a great time to go. Because now we have 14 Stalkers, we have an Observer, and we can go, our Blink can be chrono boosted one final time, and we're going to have Blink as we get to his base. Behind this, we have a second Observer coming, and we have more Stalkers being made. You can literally put these on, like, group 2 or some shit, or, like, your secondary group. And now, remember how we talked about 6-minute third base? Okay, so he's like attacking us, right? We could just be like, blink micro, or do whatever you want with your blinks. But third base is already like fully saturated at this point in the game. And now we could take our fourth base. Our money's getting kind of high now too. And we're able to make units pretty fast with our observer. Our money's getting really fast because this base is already looking juicy. So we take another base. And now with this, we can take our forge. Because we're going to start getting upgrades. We can also pair this with a charge upgrade. And we can continue chrono boosting our council. And we can go again. If our opponent attacks us, you defend, right? That's totally fine. And you can get ready to go attack again. Let's go poke our opponent. If he attacks us with the DT, we can blink around with an observer and get on top of that shit. And now we start making zealots. with our army back here, so that we can, you know, actually utilize our charge.
And with this force, I'm just looking for like small victories.
Yes,
and blink away type
100%.
stuff.
You're not trying to like kill him right now. So it'd be things like this, like, is there a third base? Is there a third base? And if there's a third base, cool, go kill it. If not, you can do shit like this, where if your opponent, let's say, has an army that's like at his base, and you're like, okay, Jesus Christ. Like if there's a unit here, you can like right here, for instance, you move in and you go, all right, you attack in, and you like, if you lose your observer, that sucks, but try not to do that. But you attack in, blink away. Even if you don't kill the unit, if you soften it up, that's still worth it. And then behind this now, when you have charge on the way, you explode fucking gateways. Transfer probes to the 4th base that we just made. And up here. And now look at my probe count again, right? My probe count's like almost 70. Let's take a 5th base because we can afford it. And my money is exploding like crazy. Take like 2 more gateways. Get a charges done now. Get a weapon upgrade. And now we have like 12 gates for now. Again, does it have to stay on 12 gates forever? Not necessarily. But 12 gates is definitely a good start. And still we could be moving around his base, poking, seeing what we can do. And then we can transfer probes now to this bottom base, because this base, it needs probes. And finally we can go into like transferring a few probes off this base as well to go down there. It's totally fine. And now now is when you're cranking out zealots like crazy, and you can have like a warp prism coming out with it. And now you're gonna get really fucking nuts with how much you can like pressure your opponent essentially. So again, like at this point in the game, you're like, cool, attack up Stalker, blink away. We just killed the Stalker, blinked away. I didn't lose my Stalker either. That was a super nice attack. Just constantly being fucking annoying and just keeping him contained with this. Meanwhile, we still have Observer, Zealot, crazy fucking defense, right? And we're just really cranking out all of our production as much as we can. Here comes another attack, blink away. We just killed another Zealot, we ran away. These are little shave offs that you definitely want to utilize and maximize if your opponent allows you to do that. You could be like, oh cool, he's gonna let me kill another Zealot, blink away. Make another round of units anywhere you can. And suddenly now we're about to be maxed out, right? And we're like, it's like 9 minutes and we're about to max. So this is when you want to, this is now when you go, okay, now we attack. Now I'm maxed out, now we fucking go for it. And you could like leave 1 observer back at home just to be extra safe if you want to be as safe as DTs. And now that you're maxed out, now is when you go, okay, now I make cannons and batteries. Now I make cannon battery. Now I make cannon battery. And now I make cannon battery as I move across the map and make finally cannon battery. And I'm here now, ready to attack. Make that final battery. And now we're gonna go. And now our prism can like fly into his base. Meanwhile, we have this big ass army that's like super scary, ramming him down, and we could just prism the main as well and just go for it, right? And continue to do this. And with any money you have that's excess from this point on, you make more gateways. You literally just crank out more gates. Go up to like literally like 20 fucking gates if you have to. Start another weapon upgrade as well while you're at it, because your last one just finished. And now you can just literally remax all fucking day. And with all that money that you have saved up, at this, or the gas that you have saved up, at that point, if you can't win the game, if you're like, oh, I'm struggling to win the game now, by all means, you can do multiple things. You can do like you can add on a Robo and start chrono boosting out Immortals. Start going into Charge Lark on Immortal. You could add on a Stargate and go into Sky Toss while maintaining to go Charge Lot Stalker for a while, and then switch it into fucking Carriers or something. Like, there's options that you have. But now at that point in the game, if you can't win there, if like you're just not making headway with your like if you're like trading army, but your opponent's just like not breaking, and you're like, fuck, okay, I'm having a harder time breaking him with Charge Lot Stalker. It's not quite going the way I want to. You can transition if you want to, but it's not even like something that you should be doing every game. So like again, the thing we saw you doing a second ago was you were doing like a pre-transition before the fight even happened to Archons, which just completely nullifies your aggressive timings of what you could be doing with the Zealots.
I think I understand that completely. So so regardless of whether I choose to go into like a Sky Toss route or whatever I try to do for late game, that's when I start grabbing all the gases, I would guess.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you start the gases if you want to make a transition. So you literally play on 2 gases the whole game otherwise.
Awesome.
And I really do think most of the Protoses are going to fucking die to Charge Lots. I'm not going to lie. Like, if you can do the build that fast and you do it consistently like that, like you're gonna, especially in Diamond League, you're gonna fucking kill everybody with that build. Like it's gonna be
Yeah.
hard to deal with for your opponent. And just know the
Okay.
sorry, you go.
No. Don't finish what you were saying.
Okay, I was gonna say a big thing to note though, because I know how paranoid you are about DTs. Very, very, very big deal to make sure that you're making 2 observers. One observer can go aggressive, one observer stays defensive, and you can have 2 different control groups. So your aggressive control group could be like, again, if you're comfortable with 1 and 2, that's fine. 1 could be aggressive, which is what you already have on the map, and 2 is new reinforcements that stay with an observer. So dealing with DTs would not be a problem then.
Cool. Now, are there any so I basically had just 3 general questions about PvP
Sure.
that I had. I think the detection is mostly covered. Is there anything that would cause you to go, I need to get the robo like a lot faster? Like instead of, the Twilight Council plus Gateway and then robo, like I'm getting the robo now. Is there anything that you see that you know?
I would say if you know for a fact your opponent's gonna win based on you, like if he's gonna go proxy immortals on you or some shit, or if he's gonna make like if he's not even gonna go for like a council himself, let's just say he goes for like a 5 gateway all in, like 5 warp gate all in or some shit like that. You could make a robo first before a council because you have the intention of going for immortals defensively to deal with an all in. That's very viable. A council is better against Stargate all ins. It's really nice because you can blink your stalkers around, but you gotta like, as long as you don't overextend and lose them all out of like a battery or some shit. But you got to realize that if you do get all in, it's going to be hard to hold if you invest into an upgrade that's not going to be in effect while you're getting all in, if that makes sense. Like if you're like, well, you're all in me now and 100 seconds later I'm going to have my upgrade, I have 100 seconds to not die, and then I can become stronger, and am I going to be dead? Like am I just going to be fucked by that point? Like what's going to happen? So
Got it.
if you think the all in is really, really imminent, and you know you're gonna get all in, like what if you like straight up see the fucking proxy, and you're like, oh, there's a proxy immortal right next to my base, and you don't feel like you can break it before it becomes a problem, maybe go robo first. And then other than that, if you think your opponent is going to go for 1 base, if you literally go, okay, yeah, this guy's got like 1 base, no expansion, and he made like 2 stalkers, and he's sitting there, like he's just camping his high ground of his main ramp with like 2 stalkers and a battery, and I have like 5 stalkers right now. You could definitely cut stalkers for a second, make a fast robo, like so. I made my robo in the 4-minute range, and I got my observer out by about 5 minutes that game. So if you really think your opponent's gonna 1 base all in you with like, where the fuck are his units? He's 1 basing me with no units, and he's turtling on his base. He's tacking to something. At that point, if you really think it's DTs, you could literally you could cut stalkers for a second, make a faster robo to get a faster observer out, and you would still counter 1 base DTs. Another thing you could do against DTs as well, if they're 1 base DTs like that, is you could just make, it sounds weird, but you could literally make like a pylon wall at your ramp, and it would buy you time because DTs would get stuck outside your base because you could wall them out, and then you could just fucking make observer again. So yeah, going for a faster robo is really only a proper choice if you think, or if you have a good educated guess to go, yeah, no, I'm getting all in right now for sure. There's no natural, and this guy's being aggressive. Does that make sense though? Does it explain it well? Okay.
Yeah, it all makes actual perfect sense.
Okay.
I think I don't really think I have any more questions because I think it all got covered through the course of.
Just to give you peace of mind, just to make you feel like this is how it is, because it is how it is. If your opponent expands, and you do the robo the way we just did it, where you add it in after you start, you either shit, you will get observers before you die to DTs every time if they're 2 basing you. Like there won't be games where your opponent, if your opponent's taking a natural just like you are, there won't be games where you're like, wait, what the fuck? DTs are killing me. The only way that works is if the Protoss literally cuts something and makes DT super fast.
Right, and I probably should be getting a robo anyway, because they could be doing any other form of proxy.
Exactly. And you can tell they're cutting because you're poking him with stalkers. Like there's gonna be a shit going wrong there. You're gonna be like, why do you have nothing? Like what the hell are you doing? Okay, this guy's got literally, he's just letting me kill a pylon for nothing, and like no, he's doing nothing. Now I'm kind of worried, right? Because he's got no units. So yeah, like those are the
100%
moments.
makes sense,
Yeah,
man.
those are the moments when you would be like, okay, maybe I take a faster robo because yeah, this guy's gonna fucking cheese me.
Well, I super appreciate your time, dude. I feel like this is a very productive coaching session for me. I really look forward to repeating that
Hell yeah.
replay a few times and
I'll send it
just
I'll send it to you in just a second as well. I'll drop it in Discord for you, and then
sweet.
yeah, man, just definitely make sure. Like again, the biggest thing I saw that was a problem for you, the biggest thing of all. Again, there's lots of little things we talked about, but the biggest thing was you're just scaling the build slowly. If you scale the build faster, kind of like what we did there, where we're on 5 bases by like what was it, like fucking 9 minutes or 8 minutes. Like your probe count, it explodes like crazy, and all this income, this resource collection rate, is like all minerals. I'm just able to make like, that's like honestly like 3,700 minerals a minute, and like 300 gas, or 400 gas. Some like because 2 gases mine like it's at 300 gas per minute for 2 gases. So that's like the rest. That's pure fucking mineral. It's like barely any gas and all minerals. And at this point in the game, this is when that's when you explode gateways because you're exploding zealot count, and you just have waves of 40 supply at a time, and you're just like, okay, or like 36 supply or 32 supply at a time every 20 fucking seconds, and yeah, it just gets out of hand. So
that's the beauty of having gateways in every inch of the map, huh?
Yeah, right. And that's really why you want to make sure you get to that stage as fast as possible, because if, for instance, if I looked at your graph, if we could compare your graph to this graph we just did this game, it would just be like one of those things where it would just be lower the entire time. And then it would just scale a lot lower, and you'd be like probably like right around here when we're maxed out at like up here, right? Because your build it was scaling slow. You run 3 bases till like 8 minutes that game because your 4th died, and then you were also trying to mine gas too, right? So you had, if you think about that too, if we both had, let's say, like 75 probes, but you have 18 of them mining gas, and I only have 6 of them mining gas, that's a 12 probe discrepancy where I've almost saturated an entire nether mineral line, and I'm just cranking those minerals like a fucking madman, which is exactly what you need to do to make the style feel strong.
Yep.
So, fuck yeah, man.
Fuck yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your night, and go open that big bag weed you got.
You too. I am. I'm unrolling it like right now as we speak.
All right.
And yeah, I'm gonna
party hard.
I'm gonna enjoy that side night. Maybe try to collect some bad manner on the ladder with this build.
Okay, sounds good. All right, man. Have a good night.
Have a good.
Thank you for doing a listen, and I'll send it to you. I'll send you the VOD and everything by like tomorrow, and I'll send you the replay in about like 5 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
Take it
Have
easy,
a good
man.
one.
See you.
Bye.
All right, guys. That has been a coaching lesson with our boy Bad Manner. Thank you for doing it, Bad Manner, and thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you guys in the next one, whatever that is, the next video. And have a great night. Have a great day. See you guys soon. Peace.